Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the next edition of the Art of Sherlock Holmes. We have an artist interview, and it's Terre Rybovich today. Good afternoon, Terre.
Good afternoon, Steve.
I should say good morning, though, because it's early in West Palm.
And it's afternoon where you are.
It's afternoon and sunny, but as I was just saying, it's the last sunny day I think we're going to get for a while. It's going to be rainy for about a week, they reckon.
Lovely London. And here it's the Sunshine State.
Yeah, so you always got sunshine, pretty much. Although last time I was in West Palm, there was a thunderstorm, so we got completely soaked.
Brought it with you.
Let's dive straight into your art, Terre, because you've got a really fascinating method that you use. And here is the first piece. Tell us a little bit about it.
This piece is called Three Females. And yeah, I should say something about my process. I started 16 years ago, well, actually 20 years ago, when I was very sick with the flu. I got this idea of drawing backwards. And what that meant to me was that instead of putting charcoal on a clean white sheet of paper, I would cover the paper with charcoal and then remove it to create the image. And because I had been focused on figure drawing, I decided, well, why not just use my body to remove the charcoal and get a jump start? And so for 16 years, I've been working with that method, and it's really interesting, the ideas that come from those body prints. So in this one, it's a little bit obscured, the body, but actually the background of the drawing is all black and white, and the figure is where the color is. About 10 years ago, I became a serious birder or bird watcher, and I now make drawings based on photographs that I've taken in South Florida of birds. So this is a black-throated blue warbler female, and there are two of them there. One you see, one you kind of have to look for in the figure. But the drawing, for me, drawing is all about finding images and details in the charcoal and then bringing them to the fore with an eraser and charcoal. So all that detailing, I could spend hours doing the kind of detailing that I did in the background of this drawing. That's what brings me the most pleasure.
And did you have to go far to find these birds? I know you've got a lot of amazing fauna and a lot of bird life in West Palm.
It's funny you asked that. This drawing, the photograph that I used for this drawing, I took from my kitchen window. So in answer to your question, no, I don't have to go far at all.
Fantastic. So let's jump to the next piece. You can see the body form in this one much more pronounced, but there's loads of other detail. I really love this piece because the more you look at it, the more little details you see. Tell us about it.
This is a larger drawing. This is about 5 feet tall, and I talked about the detailing. When I it sounds funny, but I sort of let the imprint show me what the drawing wants to be. And the more I looked at the upper part of this drawing, the more I see this sort of magical landscape coming into being. So I really am just drawing what I find in the charcoal. And so we've got, you know, a gateway, we've got high rises, there's a train coming out of a tunnel. There are all kinds of details that, you know, it's just very satisfying to find that and bring it into a form that other people can see too. And then the same with the color. I saw arbitrary shapes and I filled them in with pastel colors to unite the drawing even more. So it's called by hand, and it's sort of about the creative process springing from the artist's hand.
You've got 4 panels here as well. Is there a reason you did the 4 pieces?
Yes. Initially, the first time I used it, it was because the drawing that I had done, not this one, had been accepted in a show in Istanbul, and I was traveling with the drawing to Istanbul. And so I needed to bring the drawing with me. And what my framer and I decided was that I would work on small sheets of paper to create a big drawing, and then bring 4 sheets of plexi glass with me, and simply, you know, have them hang the drawing and the plexi on the wall. And it worked out beautifully. And I guess something about the experience of being in Istanbul, which is just a beautiful, beautiful place to travel to. This form of drawing on 4 smaller sheets of paper instead of one larger one. I don't always do it, but there's something about it that I can't quite put my finger on that brings me, it means something to me that I'm not sure what it is. It brings me a lot of pleasure.
When you have a memory like that, Istanbul is such a beautiful city. My wife and I, one of our favourite cities to visit as well. So much culture there, so much fantastic architecture.
Oh my gosh.
Let's jump into the next one. You've got the 4 panels here again. A little bit less colour on this one.
No color at all. This is my charcoal is my first love. I don't always need the color. People seem to respond more when there's color, but for me, when you're drawing in black and white, it's all about the form. It's almost like sculpture because there's nothing else to distract you, basically. So this, yeah, again, you can clearly see the imprint of the figure, and this figure is a little more girly than what I typically have done. And once I started down that path, I started doing this sort of detailing that's like ruffles or jewelry or something. And as I was drawing, I started to think about Loie Fuller, the pioneering dancer in the earliest days of cinema. And so that sort of pushed me even more in that direction. And I guess not surprisingly, as I was focused on all this female stuff, the man to the left sort of appeared out of the charcoal looking at Loie Fuller. So he had to get added into the picture as well. I wanted other people to see him and not just me. But this is one that there's a lot of hours spent doing this sort of detailing, every square inch of the drawing. Again, this is a 5 foot tall drawing. A lot of detail spent getting every one of those marks. I mean, literally every square inch gets attention.
Yeah, it's very big drawings in terms of being 5 feet. A lot of the artists that I've been talking to for the Art of Sherlock Holmes, their pieces seem to be smaller, apart from, of course, the people that are doing murals and wall art. This one really stood out for me. The bands of red through here. I couldn't quite work out what the red bands represented, but it's a lovely piece. What inspired you here?
Again, it started out as a black and white drawing, but the more I worked on it, to me this became a challenge in expressing myself as exuberantly as I could. So the black and white sort of ribbon tendril things that were coming out from her, I took that as far as I could. I'm a pretty understated person, and so it sort of takes a leap of faith for me to express myself emotionally for the world to see. But the red ribbon was sort of the ultimate gesture of exuberance, and I don't have a specific intention for it except for it to be a celebratory gesture. You know, it brings color to the drawing, it brings livelihood. Blood, of course, is red, and the red thread, the name of the drawing is Red Thread. And for writers, they think about their stories having like beads on a string. You want to have smaller stories that line up nicely and are coherent and form one long string. And the red thread just sort of brings a living, breathing element to that same concept. So it's partly the writer in me, but it's also just a celebration of the form and the state of being alive.
Fantastic, and I guess everybody sees something different in the picture. It's maybe the first time you've heard it, but I spent quite a bit of time in Kenya, and I see a zebra in here, in the top right-hand side, with the white and black lines. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the zebra in the picture before.
That is my first. I welcome viewers I want them to come to their own understandings of the drawing. I really get a kick out of it when people say, oh, look, there's a rabbit here. And I think, well, or they'll ask me, why did you put the rabbit in the drawing? And I have to say, well, which drawing are we talking about? I don't think I've put rabbits in any of them, but if you see a rabbit, there's a rabbit there.
Yeah, it's a bit like looking at clouds, I guess. You see a cloud and some people see something in the cloud. I should say probably zebra rather than zebra. But that's the beautiful difference between the British and the American command of the language, I guess.
Yeah, I'll have to find your zebra. I'm not seeing it at the moment.
Have another look at it. I'm sure you'll see it jump out. Let's talk a little bit about the Art of Sherlock Holmes. So this project conceived by Phil Growick. So Phil is a two-time Sherlock Holmes novelist. So that's his connection to Sherlock Holmes. And he lives in West Palm Beach and has got involved in the art community, came up with this amazing idea to pair up artists with Sherlock Holmes stories. And this is a little glimpse of the piece that you've done for the book, Terry. And please don't name it because we're keeping it very secret from the authors. So none of the authors know who has painted their art, and they haven't seen the full art yet. So there's a lot of suspense and mystery around it. But in this picture here, you've got a beautiful use of the vibrant red in the flower at the bottom there. But tell us a little bit about how it felt to create something from a story.
You know, it's interesting when Phil Growick first called me and asked me to be in this, I immediately said yes. And then afterward, I started thinking, oh no, what if he gives me some sort of Jack the Ripper kind of story? Because, you know, I really don't appreciate violence as a form of entertainment. And when my story finally arrived, I couldn't have been happier because it basically is it's a look at the faith versus reason. And it really resonated with me. But, and as I was reading the drawing, because of it, part of the background, the hands of the drawing came to mind. I knew that by the end of the story, I knew how I would start the drawing. But then I kind of got stuck on thinking, how do you draw faith versus reason? And so it actually took me, it was a short timeline, but in that short timeline, I took as much time as I could to figure out what exactly was going to be represented here. And it ended up being what for me was the key figure in the story.
And it's a really, really beautiful piece. I keep coming back to it. It's lovely to see it in the book as well. And all of the pieces of art are going to be coming together on the 9th of May. So the exhibition starts at a high-end gallery called the Anne Norton Sculpture Gardens. So all 15 pieces of art will come together then and be exhibited for the month of May. We'll have another event at the end of May, on the 25th of May, where we will be broadcasting live from the former home of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote the Sherlock Holmes stories. It's a lovely building called Undershaw, which is the home of Stepping Stone School for children with learning disabilities. And we're going to be having an evening with Sherlock Holmes with a lot of fun and a lot of events. And we'll be cutting live to the gallery to look at the art and meet some of the artists. Will you be there for the launch on the 9th?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It's going to be
all the art together.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge amount of fun. I'm going to be popping over shortly after, about 10 days later, to come and see the art and meet some of the artists. It's been absolutely delightful to talk to you, Terry. Wish you all the best with your art, and look forward to meeting up with you when I come over in May.
Yes.
And absolutely beautiful piece, and thank you so much for taking part.
Thank you, Steve. We'll see you in May.
See you then.